There's a picture that was taken 6 or 7 years ago with Richard Branson. He's one of my heroes. What I like about Richard is he's really openly entrepreneurial. I mean, he's just like, he's out there. It's almost like, you know, he's an entrepreneur who's come out, right? And people go, yeah, I like that. Okay, that was the model they built for the version of the space shuttle thing that they're doing, which is actually happening right now. This was 6 years ago. I met Richard Branson in Brisbane when he launched Virgin in Brisbane at the Marriott Hotel. Okay, there were 600 people there, and Richard stood outside in August. And didn't Tony tell you what it's like in August, even in Brisbane? Yeah. Richard Branson stood outside, and it was cold. Right, he had a coat on, but it was cold, and he stood there until every single person who was invited came, and he shook their hands. That's all he had to do. I mean, you know, Richard Branson is really economical with his time. He's got a lot of business interests that he's got to look after, right? But to stand outside a hotel and shake hands with everybody who comes in, what does that show you? Yeah, yeah. And so you buy from people who care, don't you? You buy from people who treat you as an individual, don't you? Yep. That's all Richard does. That's what he does with all his life. He just goes around and does that nice guy stuff, and yeah, people love him. And he's made it an art form. Gets lots of publicity for it as well, right? I bet you he'll tell you he's not good at detail. Because that's what entrepreneurs are like. Their job isn't... Imagine this, like you're a hunter with a spear. You're running through the forest. The last thing you want is any distractions along the side, and you don't want any baggage. Okay? That's how a hunter works. Right? So you've got to be flexible and be able to keep your eye on the ball, the focus at the end of it. Right? So a hunter also sees where the deer is going to be, because if you don't know anything about throwing a spear, it generally has to be thrown ahead of where the animal is, because it's going to move as soon as it hears the spear coming. Right? So you've actually, if you think about it, that's a what would you call it? A way of describing how entrepreneurs think, their visionary process, that they're actually seeing things ahead of time. How many of you started your business and thought that was a really good idea, but the idea was a little bit hard to get other people to understand? Yeah, and it takes a while, doesn't it? Right? It's a learning process. You've got to learn as you go, try to figure out how to communicate with these people. Okay? But you have the vision that's way ahead of somebody else, including all of your staff. Don't forget, if you hire staff, you have staff working for you, right? The biggest mistake that entrepreneurs make is leave them behind. They don't help them understand what is expected of them. Now, you had a guy from Brain in the Box here? Yeah, okay. We use the product. We actually put it into every business that we consult to, every single one, because what we've seen is in 6 months it'll take an ordinary business and turn into an extraordinary business when you know what the processes are. That's what Brain in the Box does, gives you the ability to map the processes properly. Why is that important? Because just because you know how to do it doesn't mean to say somebody else does. And from my perspective, it's absolutely critical everybody else can do it except me. I mean, I can do it too, but certainly everybody else has to do it. Okay? And if I think it's got to be done a particular way, if I write a process, people do it that way. If I don't write a process, you're leaving it up to them. And this is another mistake entrepreneurs make. Because they can make it up as they go along, they think their staff can. Right? And that's really where most people get into trouble. They don't understand that, you know, you're dealing with these people that don't actually take a risk every day. They haven't got their house and everything they own on the line. They haven't got any of those things going on in their lives. Right? Their biggest risk is buying a house. Right? Entrepreneurs, on the other hand, are risk takers, adventurers. My friend Wilson Harrell, who wrote books about entrepreneurs, said that they're pirates, buccaneers. Right? So they do things very, very differently, but their staff can't.